open up this town council meeting for May 18th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. People in the wings, please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All you, Twyla.
Councillor Albert?
Here.
Councillor Colby?
She is going to be dismissed. She's got conflicts for tonight or something for the weekend.
All right. Councillor Ganong?
Here.
Councillor La Rochelle?
Here.
Councillor Ward?
Here.
Councillor Lunt?
Here.
And Councillor Fellows?
Here.
Shall we take a motion to excuse
Yes.
Councillor?
I need
Make
a
that motion.
I need the second.
Second.
All in favor? Look at that. No roll call. We're moving.
0.
Next item, Twyla.
Is good news and recognition, and we would like Summer and Jake to enter the council room, please. If you'd join us at the podium, we'd appreciate that, Summer. So your mom, Karen, served on the planning board for quite a few years, and she served as chair and vice chair, and she was very proud of her real estate background, and she contributed whatever she could to each case when that expertise was needed. Karen liked conversation and was more than willing to talk to applicants about their particular situations. She was always polite and diplomatic and listening carefully as they spoke about their cases. And she did this exceptionally well when situations were difficult. Karen was devoted to Bob, her daughter Summer, and most enthusiastic supporter of her grandson Jake. Karen would bring a little something to present to board members at Christmas time or some other occasion that she deemed special. That generosity to virtually everyone may be what she's most remembered for. We certainly have missed Karen, and we created this year's town report with Karen in mind. She wore blue a lot, so we chose a blue theme in her honor. And we were lucky to have her in our community, and she contributed much to our success. So we would like to present you, the council would like to present you and Jake with a few copies of our town report. So you can open those now.
Thank you.
Which we dedicated to her this year.
Oh, my word.
And if you open it right up to the very first side of the cover, you'll find all the things I just read. Here. I think it's through the second page.
Yeah. Oh.
We're awfully glad that you stopped in tonight.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet. Thank you, guys. You cared an awful lot about this town and about all of you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Is 3 enough copies? If you want more, let me know.
No, that's great. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Summer.
Thank you.
Sorry
Yeah.
for the deception.
Wasn't quite a question.
That's all right, Don. I'll get you back. One of these days, I'll get you back, my friend. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you. I would not have recognized Jake if you told me.
I haven't seen him in a year.
No kidding. Last time I placed him, I think it was 6 years old at Cub Scouts. He wasn't wearing his tie-dyed T-shirt.
That was a minute ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I drifted.
Fine.
Next item, Twyla, where are we at?
We have no public hearings, but it would be audience participation and response for agenda items. So at this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may enter the room, approach the lectern, but I don't see anyone, right?
No, I don't think there's nobody out there,
All right.
right? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And those listening from live from Town Hall video streaming are now invited to send any written comments to award@lisbonme.org.
I have nothing at this time, Twyla.
Okay.
Standard in that regard. Anything that does come in, I will read it into the record for the listening public.
And next item is the consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine and will be considered by adoption for adoption by one motion with no separate discussion unless a councilor requests an item be removed. Are there any items to be removed?
My question just on content. Mass gathering permit for the town of Lisbon for the summer activities. Is that covered in one of the other items, or should that be added to your list?
Mass gathering permit for Parks and Rec.
Yes.
That's covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did I miss that?
At the bottom, set public hearings for the following business licenses. So first we do the public hearings and then we issue the
Okay.
permits. at
Thank
the
you.
next meeting.
Thank you.
So, order 2021 number 116 to approve the municipal accounts payable warrants totaling $17,285.53. The municipal payroll warrants totaling $186,052.06. The school accounts payable warrants totaling $202,079.55. The school payroll warrants totaling $13,633.64. The workshop minutes from May 4th, 2021. And the renewal victuals licenses for the following 13 establishments: the American Legion, Aroma Joe's, Cruise and Slice, Flex Restaurant, Frank's, Grazzie's To Go, Lisbon Left Hand Club, Mac Daddy's Mobile Cuisine, Railroad Restaurant and Pub, the Riverside Dairy Bar, Slovak Catholic Association, Smiley's Ice Cream, and Food City. Also approving the renewal itinerant vendor permits for Mac Daddy's and Cruise and Slice, and the Mid-Coast Humane Animal Shelter contract. Said motion authorizes the town manager to sign the renewal agreement effective July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022, and to set public hearings for June 22 for the following business licenses: a special entertainment for Frank's, a renewal medical marijuana establishment permit for Lisbon Cannabis and 207 Edibles, plus a renewal mass gathering permit for Parks and Rec.
Make a motion.
I need a
Second.
second. I got the second. All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0, isn't it?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Next item, 12.
Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, Order 2021-117, the Casella Residuals Management Agreement.
Can I have a motion for discussion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
How about a second? I got the
Second.
All right, I'm sure somebody's got a question on content. So I'm going to let you do the overview, Steve, and we'll take it from there.
Good evening, Steve Abioli at the Sewer Department. As you can see on the agenda tonight, Casella Organics has put out that they're going to terminate our contract and they're willing to renegotiate with some changes to it. This contract we've had with them since 2008, essentially the same contract with one amendment in 2013. And the biggest change in this contract is going to be the cost. The cost of business is going up for them because a lot of the material that they accept, they can no longer compost and sell because of PFAs, the issues going on with those chemicals right now nationwide. And so it's costing them a lot of money. They're losing a lot of money, I should say. And also there's some issues with odors that they're dealing with. They're doing this with every customer in the state, not just us. They have some issues with odors that they are dealing with, and one of the things we used to get as a benefit was we'd get 30 yards of compost for free each year if we wanted it, and we used to take advantage of that. With PFAs, we can no longer do that. We don't want those. No, we don't want any potential issues from them chemicals in our town, so I have no issue with that going away. And that's the gist of it. I don't know if there's any questions based on the information that was provided with the new contract.
Any questions of Steve, guys?
Yes. Steve,
Yes.
I'm assuming that Casella, in any contract language, there's always as long as they notify us within X number of days, we can cancel this contract. When did we know, and when did they notify us?
They notified us in December that they were going to be terminating the contract.
And is this trickled up to us before, and I'm just not remembering this? Because this seems to
We've
be
been all this time negotiating the new contract
okay.
between our legal and their legal. We just finally wrapped that up. That's why it's taken so long to get to you.
Okay. Just, I wanted, for the dot, I wanted to understand that a little bit better.
And Mr. Chair, I guess the question would be kind of going with norms is the budget that we set in place this year identifying and actually figuring in for the extra cost of this budget?
We were notified of what the potential cost would be. We were given a range, and it actually is pretty much at the exact number that they estimated it would be. So we based our budget off of that number for this next year.
So we're all good then. So
Yes.
we know. All right, thank you.
I have one more. That's excellent work. Thank you. That's so good to hear. I just can't say enough good things about that. Having a curveball thrown at you, understanding that, and then building a budget based off of that number. Only so when we get to this point, if anyone's to ask that hard question, it's asked and answered. So I can't say thanks enough, Steve. That's great work.
Thank you. Thank you. It is. This was a curveball thrown at us because there really is no other option to take this material. So just similar like our centrifuge when we had that issue. Without that, we can't operate the treatment plant. The same goes with disposing of this material that piece of equipment generates. we can't dispose of it, we don't have a treatment plan. It would just become overloaded and cause us nothing but issues.
Steve, the 116 per ton, is that over the next 3 years?
That'll see an annual price increase based on the consumer price index. There's actually language in the contract of that. I can actually tell you which section it is.
Yeah,
How
I
they
was
do
looking
that.
at the term, and in that regard, the 116 gets us for the current year, and then there'll be an adjustment
Yes.
each fiscal year after
Yeah.
that.
It's the same. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, just go.
The contract we're currently working under is based off the same pricing increases. We're done the same way, and we are seeing an average about $1 per ton increase per year.
Okay. In what time frame? It would be December that you'd get that information again for the budget for next year?
It's typically around October they would do that, based off of the old contract with the new contract. That should be done annually based then. I don't have a time frame for when that occur
Okay,
yet.
but it's in advance of the time frame that you'll need it for the budget, so
Yes.
it's well in advance. All right. Any other questions, Steve, guys?
I'd love to ask a question before we vote, but it's on,
Yeah.
it's on the subject, but not actually on the subject. If you want to vote, then you'll let Steve here, maybe ask some question, if I could.
Sure, if it's not directly related to this, let's
Right.
vote this, and that way,
Okay.
while he's still in the room. We've always done that. All in favor?
6-0, order passed.
Hey, just a big question, and I'm sure you have the answer already anyways, is seeing a lot of building up in the Lisbon end of town, multiple units and more going in and possibly more going in the future.
Yes.
Is our system adequate? Is there a limit to what we can build on this end of town and still handle it the other end of town as far as for?
That's where the upgrades that we're currently doing
Yep.
is to remove that inflow and infiltration coming in from outside sources, basically groundwater. And with eliminating that, it actually does open it up to be able to take more sewage in from a different building that is occurring. Because there is potentially quite a bit more going to be happening that we're working on right now.
Yeah, I was just curious, because we're all excited about the idea of building up, but we know our infrastructure is basically, we're maintaining what we have, which
Yes.
doesn't always leave room for more for expansion. So I just wanted to know, because we get excited about new stuff happening all the time, but then sometimes that has a effect down the road that sometimes we don't plan for. So
Absolutely. And we have, over the next probably 5 to 7 years in our capital improvement plan, some of these major pump stations down on this end of town, we're going to start seeing the upgrades happen to those. And we'll take in these excess flows into account then to make it a little easier on the pump stations.
I know just in Kelly Park alone, I mean, that actually is quite a
Yes.
influx to your system over the last few years, and with that end only getting bigger, I know the planning board even approved the other night another multi-unit closer into the village and stuff. So just back of my mind, I was kind of wondering where we're at and if we actually have room for expansion.
The upgrades that we've done the last couple of years on this end of town, mainly sewer replacements, our flows have actually going down that we're seeing at the treatment plant, especially during rain events.
That's
So it's
awesome.
actually, even with all that building going on in Kelly Park.
That's very cool.
So it's working for us right now, and hopefully it'll continue to work.
Good news. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
So that's great news to hear, and that's really, to hear you say it's going down because of the improvements makes me smile from ear to ear. That said, and I don't expect you to give us an update now, but just something to put on your radar for maybe the next business report. I know that when this came about with our friends Oliver and Associates, they kind of gave us that $20 million roughly, give or take. Where are we at on that, and how, from a timeline perspective, and maybe just get an understanding of what we've done so far and where we have yet to go. I know it's mapped out as part of the overall plan, but it would just be nice to get an update on that sometime.
Yeah, it's difficult to say, just come out and say it without it. It'd be easy to show,
Right.
some drawings and showing what we've done. We've done approximately 50% of the sewer replacements.
Yep.
But the work that's occurring right now will put us probably just over 50%. And we have a couple other projects in the works that'll really kind of push that ahead to try to appease DEP with some of our past issues we have. They're very excited to see what we're doing, and they want us to continue moving that direction. But we're 4 years into this work, and Main Street will be hopefully completed during the 5th year, and fifth, pushing the 6th year. And then we're going to have to figure out where we're going to go from there to complete the remainder of that work.
If at all possible, maybe for the startup of the fall, maybe have just a quick presentation. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a couple of slides or whatever you feel is appropriate. If it has a handout, I don't care how that feels or looks, but I think it would be great for us to be able to bring that to the public and say, we talked about infrastructure and why there was a need for all of these things that we passed. It'd be great to give just a little bit of a progress report on that and talk about that.
It'd be great. It's we've actually done similar to that with DEP
Right.
not long ago with Oliver Associates actually doing that presentation for us, and DEP was wild. They couldn't believe the progress that we have made so far.
Well, let's celebrate these wins.
Yes.
That's the thing I'm talking. So good. If you don't mind, I'm sorry to drop it on you, but
no problem.
on your timeline, whenever you get a chance, but I'd love to see it. I know we all would.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
You too.
Similar but not. I had a side discussion on with all of the construction hydrants and where they aren't currently with housing, and how our fire department will have to change what one pumper truck would fit with hydrants versus actually as spread out as they are. In that regard, it's a game changer on the infrastructure associated with that on the backside. So anything that we can to maintain that.
Absolutely. We're growing. We're just going to make sure we grow with it. That's all. Infrastructure we don't always look at as something that needs to be improved all the time.
I still can't believe how happy I am. They just said to me that the improvements have actually lowered the flow. I mean, I must be getting old to think that's an exciting thing I should be happy about.
You're a different man.
Yeah, right?
Next item, Delilah.
Order 2021-118, the CDBG facade grant projects for 2 and 4 Main Street.
Hey everybody, Brett Richardson, Economic and Community Development Director, here with another good facade project tonight to put in front of you. Looking at a repainting for 2 and 4 Main Street, which is Frank's and Legendary status. This project was discussed at the Lisbon Development Committee, which serves as a citizen community development block grant citizen advisory committee. And this project passed that committee with a condition. And the condition was based on the fact that the facade was painted in 2017 using CDBG facade grants. And if you've been past the building recently, you've noticed there's been some peeling on that building. And so the condition was to make sure that before additional resources were invested, that we understood why it was peeling after 4 years, and that there was a remedy in place to make sure it didn't happen again on such a quick timetable. So with that, the applicant did some due diligence, talked to various folks in the industry, particularly Sherman-Williams, and the remedy they recommended was to switch from water-based paint, to an oil-based stain. And we had a member on the committee who actually had worked with this oil-based stain on a historic building and had a really good experience with it. So based on that, the LDC felt that condition was met, that the new recommendation for the oil-based stain will solve the issue, and that it's worth moving forward. So we're asking for that approval tonight. From a budget standpoint, with this project, 13 Main, which was approved a little while back, 14 Main, which was approved last fall, 16 Main, which was approved recently, and then 58 Lisbon Street, we're talking about just over $55,000 committed of $100,000 in CDBG funding. So after this project, there's still $45,000 left to spend on new projects.
We're gonna get all shined up.
I'll take a motion for discussion.
I'll make a motion for discussion.
I need a second. All right. Shoot, who's got the first question?
Most of mine were answered, but I know you actually had.
I have one in that regard. Is what's the difference between 2017 when we were first rolling out the grant and facade program versus now? What's our depth in contractors actually? Has it improved, or are we still getting the limited numbers associated with that?
It's a good question. I think we're going to find out, to be honest with you. We're working on that. The good news is that this project, the bids are due on June 11th, as long as the other ones. So we're going to have a critical mass of 5 projects. So hopefully we can get a good response based on that. So there'll be another newspaper article posting, and we're going to work through the contractors to find additional contractors to bid. I won't sugarcoat it, though. It's a tough economy to find contractors to do the work. Folks are quite busy, so we're gonna pound the bushes to make sure we can find folks.
I don't know how the guy in how busy the guy in the old yellow schoolhouse is right now, but he might know a thing or two about having buildings that are old
It's
painted.
very specialty when you're looking at CDBG work associated with that to be able to meet the deadlines and contract requirements associated with that. I mean, where I was going with it is back in 2017, there was only one vendor that was willing to come forward. The question, I guess, that would be within the question is what happens if that situation presents itself again today in that regard is I would want to, I'm going to try to be as delicate as I can as I want to advocate for both sides here is the fact is I don't want the contractor nor the owner to actually feel the adversarial part associated with what was done is done in the rear view.
Yeah, that's a good question, and we had to get CDBG clearance to bring this project forward again. You know, it's our time frame gives a preference to projects that haven't been done in 5 years. This is below that threshold, so it was a conversation that we had to have with the state, and I think they would have an opinion on that matter as well.
Okay. So it will play itself out is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. And you will have, after that playing itself out before the award, the recommendation and the reasoning for why.
Excuse me, yeah, ideally, we'll have the bids back on the 11th of June, and then we'll come back on the 22nd, which is your next meeting of June, to approve the bids.
Okay. Any other questions of Brett on this?
Which I've had all mine asked and answered before, so.
The one that hit the highlight for the start was what happened 4 years ago that actually have to come again, because I know that's the owners have been asking that same question. So the remedy associated with that, I feel good about that as well. It's just the fact that at the end of the day, we don't want to be here just spinning our wheels doing it again 5-10 years down the line.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Well, to your point, to the chair's point about who we have for qualified folks, I think that could, I'm no expert, and I'm glad that you consulted an expert in this sense on what would be the best product to use going forward. But I wonder if the product that was used back then, and I am not impugning anybody's work, but you wonder if you don't know what you don't know, especially when it comes to historic buildings. So the preparation is the key there. So that's why we're all, I think, on the same page with, is it going to be a contractor that has experience doing this type of work with these types of materials, for lack of a better term. So that's really where it comes down to, and it'll play itself out. We'll see what happens then. But
I think what we can do too, to that point, from the conversations we've had, is the key phase is the prep, sanding, getting the wood down, and so I think we need to do some due.
I don't know how tied our hands are, and I don't know that we want to come wading into this, but we come to the council for approval for this, so when it comes back for the final award, if we can make that conditional that they have to consult with a professional on that piece of that component. If you're going to do this outside exterior work, then you have to consult an expert on what the best way is to prep it before you paint it. I don't know. I'm just spitting it out there to see what happens.
No, it's a good idea. I was thinking, a point of performance, due diligence to make sure before any new paint is applied that wood is prepped the appropriate way.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chair, I believe that when the bid is put in, it will give process, and we'll be able to tell as well.
That's kind of where I was landing, is making sure the bid specifications cover those pieces.
Right.
Cool.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Thank you.
Nope, by all means.
Brett, while you're right here, do you mind actually, one of the things coming up is actually our committee reports, and I know we actually have a meeting coming up that's in the public. Do you mind sharing that, just so the dates and times are correct?
Yeah, sure. I guess this will be my last appearance tonight, so I might as well get it done. I appreciate that, Vern. So if you haven't seen or been made aware, next Wednesday, May 26th. I'm not sure where February came from.
It's been a long budget season.
Probably when we started this process about where Rumbo was in February. But I want everybody in Lisbon who's available to come to MTM Center on Wednesday night, May 26th at 6 p.m. And we're going to have a good night looking over renderings and potential redevelopment scenarios for the Rumbo parcel. Those are available on the town webpage to view now. If you go to the town webpage, go to departments, go to the economic and community development page, and then look on the left. There's a tab that says Warumbo Community Visioning. And if you click on that, there's a lot of information, a lot of reading materials about the history of that site, environmental reviews, and then as well as these new renderings. So the goal of that meeting next Wednesday is to present a range of development options. Back in August, we did a public meeting, which was followed by a survey, 400 responses to that survey. The strong consensus among those 400 responses was that the community wants to see connectivity to the river. They want to see tasteful development that connects to Main Street, and we want to see protection of the views of the river. And so these renderings represent a range of development that fit that definition. One being a lighter development, two being middle of the road that includes commercial and some housing, and then the third scenario is more dense development that would include an adjustment to the zoning to allow greater height and reduce the parking requirements. And so those all semantically fit that definition. By presenting these pictures, folks will have a good chance to understand and visualize what those impacts will be. But the good news is that no matter what we do, or where we land, and what developer that we partner with, there's still going to be roughly 2 or so acres of green space that connects to the river and provides a public amenity there. So come to the MTM Center next Wednesday, 6 p.m., hear presentations, and then share your input about what you'd like to see at Warumbo.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
just as an aside, I don't know that Brett's known this, but I've been in contact with people recently on the Casco Bay Trail system, and Mr. Maines is particularly involved with that now.
Sure.
And some other interested parties from Lewiston, but there's some changes that may happen in October that would lend itself to development of that trail in a different way than just plain railroad tracks. I think there's not much more to say right now, but there is something going on with that. So
June 6th at the MTM, there's a public meeting that Richard's actually set up that'll be communicating
yes,
as well.
on the 8th of June, I think.
June 6th.
No, 8th.
6th. What's the date? That's the note that I had.
Do you know the date, Mark?
I thought it was June 8th.
Is it 8th?
Yes.
6 is a Sunday.
So it would be the 8th. Sorry.
Listen, that we know. Once you say it 3 times, everybody knows
Yeah,
that.
no,
right?
thank you, Mark.
Sorry.
Fresh from the Conservation Commission tonight. If it hasn't been brought to you, I failed to mention it at Wednesday in this LDC meeting. $5,000 with the banners was approved through TIF funds. That is not fund balance. That's available to you now. Specifically for banners along the corridor on Village Street and around the Rusty Lantern area. I presented in the budget workshop 2 mock-ups, one either using the veterans that we had in the past or exploiting your Powered by Moxie colors associated with that. We envisioned that and talked about it at the workshop that should land within the LDC's reign associated with that. So if you could work with Lisa to put that on a future agenda.
Great.
I'd love to see that because it was going to be covered in good news and recognition tonight, and I missed that piece. I want to thank PW for the flags that are actually going up. They're starting to look much improved associated with that, and I just think that we can do more along those corridors. So it's something that the council believes as well too, and use those funds to be able to do whatever you guys see fit to be able to make that happen.
Wonderful. That'd be great for the committee. They'll appreciate digging their hands into that. So thank you for providing that.
Thank you. Anything else for Brett tonight, guys? Thank you, sir.
Have a good night.
All right. Drive fast, take chances.
Close.
All right, Twyla, next item.
Order 2021, number 119, the Homeland Security Grant for the Police Department radios.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan McGee, Chief of Police. The Police Department has the opportunity to apply for federal funds through the Homeland Security Grant, the 2021 Homeland Security Grant. This particular grant does not require any matching funds from the town, and the amount of money that the Police Department could possibly receive is currently unknown. We have done these grants in the past, and they've been in the $3,000 to $5,000 range. However, for this geographic area, it's about $100,000 plus money allotted to this area. So, with that being said, the Police Department has been working and upgrading their mobile radios in the cruisers to be digital P25 compliant encrypted radios. The radios we have at the end of the lifespan, some of them are broken, and they are very expensive to fix. So I've decided to go ahead, and the rest of it would be 5 radios, mobile radios for the cruisers that we would need to complete upgrading all of these radios to be where we need to be. Total request for this grant is $15,500. This would get rid of all the old radios. So the police department is requesting permission to apply for, accept, and spend any money allotted through this grant process towards the above purchases. As I explained in the past, we've asked for less. I'm going to ask for the full amount. We could get less, or we could get everything taken care of at one shot. So the radios that we're going with are Motorola APX 4500s, and as I said, these radios, they are P25 digital compliant, but basically what I'm saying is these are going to last us a very long time. As the radios that we had in the past lasted a very long time. These, I've met with the radio companies, and they said these are the ones that are going to take us into the future and be able to allow us to work with the other area agencies, which is what I'm trying to do, is make sure that our communication systems that we have here are working with everybody else around us. So,
Make a motion for discussion?
I need the second.
Second.
The, is this a match grant at all? Is this 100%? The grant itself, is it a match from our community?
there's no match.
No match, so it's 100% then.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not a question, it's a statement. You had me at Grant. Let's go get it. Go get that money.
Careful, I found some other grants. I'm not.
You put your pen to work as often as you like, sir. That's fine by me.
Yeah, but, no,
We've
I
been
think,
pretty
he said, I
fortunate.
think he said careful what you ask for. He's found some colorful grants you might not want to accept.
We'll see. We'll see.
And hearing no other questions, all in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Thank you. You guys have a good night.
Chief, it's an FYI. I don't know if there's anything to it or not, but I'll tell you the same thing I told Eric Sampson earlier today in another meeting. I was approached by Lewis, and they're looking to possibly get rid of their rugged books that are in their cruisers because of the body cams that came in.
Yep.
If that's the case, that there may be potential for WatchGuard laptops available. If there's any interest associated with something that we might be able to benefit from, reach out to Lewiston PD.
Our watch guards are actually in pretty decent shape, and I have spoken to Chief O'Malley in the past. And recently I met with them and checked out their body-worn cameras, actually made by the company called Body Worn.
Yep.
As I said previously, that there could be some grant money coming out after legislature comes through. I have reached out to Body Worn, the company itself, inquiring about basically video capabilities for the officers. WatchGuard has become extremely, they're expensive, and the newer companies, the new and up-and-coming companies, is this company called, it's Body Worn. And what's nice about it is these cameras allow the officers to actually use a device that actually looks exactly like a cell phone that mounts inside their uniform.
Yeah.
And
second lapel button right there from his, that would be the camera.
exactly. And what's nice about it is they can pull it out, still have it facing forward, and they can use this at crime scenes and take their pictures, and then they can pop it right back in, and then when they get back to the station, they hit a button and it uploads all to their police report. WatchGuard, they're a great tool. I'm definitely a fan, and so are all my officers of the WatchGuard, as well as trying to get body-worn cameras. That is the direction we do want to go here. But it's very time-consuming. It's taking officers a very long time to upload this data. And this new company, now, I don't never want to be a guinea pig to a new company, but Lewis and Auburn's been having great luck with it. So that's the direction kind of we're looking. The cruisers are set up great right now. We don't have any issues.
Okay.
The server was taken care of within the past couple of years. We had several upgrades done, so we're in a good position now, not to worry about anything breaking at this moment. And I think cost benefit to a community our size is going to be going towards this body-worn company. But I do thank you for bringing that up.
I remember you mentioning that originally and looking for the grant resources associated with that. Meaning, for anybody that's not familiar, it's less about the physical devices. It's about the storage on the back end. It's the cost associated with it.
Yeah.
Because once you start everybody doing it, you need to have enough capacity to bring it up to the cloud.
Yeah, and I sat in on a meeting recently where they're talking about record keeping, and some of the record keeping, actually a lot of the record keeping, due to physical arrests, and we're not just talking about the paperwork of these arrests. Some of the stuff we got to keep for 99 years. Some of the sex offenses, it's forever. So this is something that it's won't be just now, it'll be long term too, trying to store this stuff. And they'll come up with it. Computer emerges, like all of you and myself. When we were in high school, we didn't have cell phones like all these kids, and things emerged. They got compressed zip files and everything else. So I think as time goes on, companies will come up with new technology to store this. So
There's private sector storage right now on large scale for all of yours and mine. Every video we ever had since our kids were born, and so on and so forth. But I think that the unique security pieces that go with data that you're talking about, and that you and your officers have to store. To hear you say that the challenge with that new equipment, while it's exciting because it offers some real in the field opportunities, but the cumbersome way that when you get back to the office and you have to upload that data and it takes a long time, you get to how do I solve that problem? And it looks like having another unit that they could take out with them, so they can leave one there to upload while the other one goes out with somebody else. Because I'm sure you're not talking about having one for each officer. It'd be a shared device and a pass off, right? Yeah, just thinking out loud.
correct. But we'd have extra for breakdowns and whatnot.
Right.
But that is the route I'm going. Like WatchGuard, when we pull into the station here, our WatchGuards, it's hands off by the officers. What I mean by that is our officers pull into the back of the station, it automatically uploads into our server. We do not touch it. The continuity evidence is from the time it's recorded into our server. But as you think about that, think of burning a DVD when you're at home and you have it already on your computer, and you put a DVD into your computer, how long it takes to burn that. Now think about doing an hour and a half long, domestic's going to be an hour and a half long situation. You're now not burning that, you're now using that video, transmitting it wirelessly to the station. It takes a little while, and downloading it takes some time when they're writing the report. So we're trying to look at companies that could streamline keeping my officers on the road more and less in the station taking care of downloading data and whatnot. So streamlining it so we can get our bodies on the road patrolling is where I want to be at.
Whole new world.
Whole new world.
Last thing, Chief, the fact that I want to applaud your effort for taking the initiative on setting up the training that you've just coordinated for landlord and tenant rights and responsibilities associated with our staff. I think it's huge, and I appreciate you taking the initiative on that.
No, thank you, and we're pretty fortunate. Pine Tree Legal came down, and they did a great job, and they provide us with a lot of resources, and actually resources that we can actually pass out to the community members. We deal with a lot of landlord-tenant issues, and they can get very heated at times, and it's really nice, even though a lot of times, I will say 90% of the time, it's going to be a civil situation. It's really nice to be able to sit there and explain to the landlord or the tenant some of the processes behind the civil situation to kind of minimize what's going on between them, calm the tempers. But we appreciated Pine Tree Legal coming out last night. It was a big help for us. But thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. Go home.
You guys have a good night.
You too.
By which I mean next door, because you're not going home. You never do. Next item, Dwyla.
Order 2021-120 to solicit bids for the Graziano Square projects.
Yay.
Hey, Mark Stevens, Parks and Recreation.
Evening, Mark.
Mark, why don't you frame it what we're talking about associated with that, and were we able to find the specifications or what the renderings of what we're looking to put in? Because I'm not confident. Has everybody here on the council seen what was actually drawn to actually be considered? I couldn't remember if it actually came before us in March when it died last year or not.
I think I still have drawings at home.
You do?
Anybody from the
Share
LDC,
those with us,
anybody
please?
from the LDC should have a copy of the drawings.
I think so.
Should be in our computer
Somewhere.
system.
I remember
I could
seeing,
just-
I remember
And
seeing the
just
drawings.
where I'm landing with that is we got the listening dot above Mark's head. The fact is we ought to actually reintroduce that for what is actually placing for action tonight, going back out before the public. That's kind of where I was landing on that. that said, I'll take a motion for discussion.
Motion for discussion?
I'll take the second. All right, now frame it, Mark. What are we going after right now?
Okay, right now, we're looking at getting some estimates for fencing. And the fencing, if you can, do a visual of the park itself, Graziano Square, from 196, facing north, it's going to be wrought iron fence, 5-foot fence instead of, I think the original plan was to put 6-foot wrought iron.
Yep.
It's going to be 5-foot wrought iron to the length of 196 for the built rock wall to the corner of the Moxie Square sign. It's going to be right in the corner. And then going down Village Street from the Moxie sign all the way to the parking lot will also be a 5-foot wrought iron fence. And then around the parking lot will be the same fencing or the same guardrail that we have along the walking path. That way when cars park there, they won't be hitting the fence and there won't be any snow removal problems with plows and such. So there'll be a little bit more heavier duty guardrail along that way with openings for the public to come through with baby carriages or just the public to be able to get through fine. And then for the gazebo, all I have right now, it's a 16 by 16 dimension. And we can build it however we want, but right now it's the original design was to look similar of a boxing ring. And basically what that was a gazebo roof, pitched roof, and that it would have, instead of like a plywood backing, it would have more of wire railings like you'd see in a nice home or a nice deck. It's quite expensive, but we're looking at getting prices for all the parts, all the supplies, and for the gazebo as well as a fence.
Electrical, I'm assuming, in that regard, because it's a potential venue for outdoor events and that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
other than the gazebo itself, is there any electrical anywhere else in that complex plan?
Yeah, I
The
think
only thing I could think of is, but the food trucks are parked, but right now I don't think there's any plan to have electrical unless we.
So just
Well, I think there was in
underground
the
from the
original.
pole to the gazebo.
I think there was in the original, but I can't remember.
Okay. So basically one underground conduit to the gazebo is what you're looking for right now.
Yes.
Is the conduits already in place, Mark, or?
There's electrical there, I believe, because there's the water lines there, the spigots there, the valves, everything there for the irrigation system's all set up.
Okay.
For some reason, I believe that the electrical conduit was
Would have
actually
been
put
run
in
at the same
place
time.
earlier when the contract, it was deep too, I believe, yeah.
Time frame completion, any idea?
I think that some of it depends on the funding, but it's going to take a few weeks to get the RFPs or the prices for the fencing and the gazebo. I think right now we really need to get a price part list for the gazebo. That's going to be the biggest challenge because we don't have the plans. But as soon as we do, we can go forward with that. But I'm thinking by end of August we'll have something that's all completed, done from start to finish.
Good. Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go.
So just in talking about the gazebo and thinking about costs of product out there right now, I'm thinking also about maintenance. And I'm thinking that gazebo is not a big item as far as what the build is. So I'm almost in favor and inclined to say any sort of composite components, anything that we can use that's going to have very low maintenance and long last as much as we can. And it would be foolish for us to put down composite decking on timber that's going to rot out and eventually go away. So I'm just thinking when we're coming up with a strategy and a plan, excuse me, be thinking about we're going to pay a lot for lumber, so we might as well look at composite in the mix because it's going to have more bang for our buck down the line. That's just my thoughts on that.
That's a good idea. In fact, we did that in Elizabeth Falls gazebo behind MTM. We did composite decking, which made a big difference. I think we replaced 2 or 3 boards in the last 10, 12 years. Mm-hmm. Really good stuff.
We always hear the same thing. We always hear the same gripes from the folks that say, another thing that we have to put on we have to pay for and this and that. So if we're thinking about it, we have a chance to do it right out of the gate, to build something that is absolutely zero maintenance, but it looks beautiful for a long time. That would be a fine way for us to do it.
Mr. Chair,
Don?
are you, Mark, are you still looking for drawings or anything that, okay, I can look and see what I have, because there were several iterations of those things. There was even a video-like thing, and I can't remember where that went.
That was email, but I went back to all my emails from Dennis the past 3 years, and I don't have it on my hard drive.
Well, I have some LDC files in the computer, but I don't remember what's there.
I remember us talking about it, specifically the fencing, because it went from a 6-foot fence. Somebody requested a 4-foot, and we all landed at a 5.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was probably about the time we were talking about putting it on hold last year to allow for opportunities with other things. So I don't remember seeing the plans. I don't know if there were plans that night, but I do remember that discussion around that.
That said, the fact that should have been a public meeting to actually be played out, we should be able to produce that going back through. I know it predates what we're doing now, but if we have to go back to the archive associated with that, that should be recoverable, because that was a workshop that played out. Because Dennis presented that here associated with that, because he did midday, he did night, so he was going through the varying times a day to see what that would look like associated with that. So we should be able to get something.
I think that was December or November or December.
Yeah,
19th.
I don't remember the time frame in that regard. It's just I know. That said, it was the previous fall, knowing that spring hit and COVID set everybody back associated with that it took the wind out of our sails last year.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
The, Mark, you had mentioned the 196 fence. Just past the bus stop area is that cement walkway. Are we actually putting a gate there or anything, or is that fencing opened, or what's your thought on that end?
I believe the design has a gate there, just to keep everything kind of equal. And the original plan was to have the wrought iron fencing completely around the park, if you remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, there should be a gate there.
Because I guess because one of the, I think the focal points of the fence was not just for aesthetics, but the idea if there's kids playing in the park that they couldn't run out to 196.
Exactly.
So that would either, I think it'd be difficult to actually make the fence go all the way, but a gate there that actually has to be latched and unlatched, I think would be very, very needed there in that area. So, the only other thing I would mention is, the gazebo itself was one of those things where, because of the location, you definitely didn't want a back wall on it, because coming down the road, seeing the Lisbon sign, you want to be able to look through and see if there's entertainment being done there. So, I mean, the basic design of it, I think, was pretty simple. The only thing that really made it a boxer ring was the wire around the edges, which is kind of unique.
Right.
One of the thoughts initially, I think, was either to look at two things: one, have it built on site, or actually have one of these places that do some of the sheds and stuff, built it off site, and actually have it transported in. The question would be that would have to be done prior to fencing, but it's just a thought. So sometimes you can actually have them built off site cheaper than you can actually have them built on site, but it's just something maybe to look into. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Possibility or not, but.
It is square. The other thing is our granite posts we ordered 4 weeks ago came in today.
Sweet.
So they should be delivered tomorrow, and we can get the sign up as soon as possible. People can see that things are moving along. So.
Where I was going to live on that, Mark, is I heard your timeline. This bid going out potentially in the next week or two, you're looking at a June return. I think realistically speaking, on a best case scenario, your August timeline may be skewed. Because if you think you're going to be able to get completion within 60 days, you're going to pay a premium for that. And I think that at this point, I would advocate be as realistic in your approach and work with whatever vendor that you've got for the low bid in that regard. Is because you're setting yourself up. Building materials are in excess of 200% of where they were over last year.
Yeah.
In that regard, that means I'm going to pay twice what we would pay for a gazebo as last year. That's the reality. But realistically speaking, accenting that by asking for something within 60 days in an already tight labor market, I think is a waste of municipal funds. In that regard, is to your point, we can take approach and be able to demonstrate what is actually going on there to address the criticism because of last year. I think it's a step in the right direction, and I'm willing to give you the latitude associated with that rather than just expending an exorbitant cost for minimal return just to address the public pressure. And if they don't like it, the listening dot can find me.
Well,
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
To that point, I'll be the one that's going to float this that goes one step farther than what Alan's saying, which is if it comes back and we don't have a lot of contractors, we only have one contract with a very ridiculous bid, then I think that it's not a bad idea to think of two things: tabling that component of the park, or eliminating that component of the park and coming up with an alternate idea. And I'm just putting it out there to say, because I think that rather than paint ourselves into a corner, to your point, let's be flexible in our approach and realize that while the initial rendering had a gazebo, it had some cool ideas around paying homage to the previous building that we all knew and loved that was there. I think that the park itself does that as well. So let's not lose that detail, and let's hope for the best. Go out and see what happens. Hope for the best. But if it doesn't, we got some pretty smart people that work in these departments, and I'm sure they can come up with some alternate ideas that'll be just as good. So.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
And Norman, is it unreasonable to actually think that if the price did come up substantially high as far as for having a covered type place, I mean, it is nice for entertainment to actually have some type of set platform to work of. If we do this in stages this year, we were able just to make a square platform, so to speak, to set the stage, if you want to call it, for entertainment. Because it would be nice to be a little bit elevated, I would assume, versus on ground level. So, I don't know, maybe we could look at it a couple different avenues instead of not doing it all, but maybe just setting a platform.
What can be done?
What can be done for reasonable funds. I don't know if it needs to be covered or not. I am sure entertainment happens either way. And the other thing, I just wanted to make sure that we, as soon as we do get to the point where we have it fenced off, we actually have adequate signs stating our park rules, on nighttime activities, close at dusk, just so we give the police the tools they need, so at evenings we can make sure that it's got to be a safe place, that's all.
To be clear, I don't believe it's going to be the gazebo that's going to be your issue. It's going to be the fencing. In that regard, both locally here and in Lewiston, fencing companies are extremely busy and they're picking and choosing what they're actually doing. So in that regard, that's where the flexibility needs to happen, because you heard it at our last meeting. Randy would like to get out of a position where he's the fencing guy because we can't find somebody to do the work for him. For record, he's absolutely right. The Booker Street parking lot is coming along excellent. It's an amazing process right there. If you haven't driven by, I encourage you to do so, because it's pretty cool to actually see progress from one of our initiatives associated with that. But I don't believe it's going to be the gazebo. I think it's going to be the signs, because there's only so many of them and there's a lot of projects going on right now.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I was just going to say, to your point on the gazebos, I've done some investigation looking for a different item, and there are just tons of prefabs out there that are well made and look nice and have the dimensions essentially. So,
or whatever the
and
location.
some of them are even made do-it-yourself, where you could, with kits and things like that you can put them up in a couple of days with a couple of people. So that'd be a volunteer.
The MTM Park all over again. That'll be interesting for you, Mark.
I sat here 2 weeks ago asking Diane to make sure that that we were moving forward on this. I know that was my ask. So the last thing I want to do is stop or stall, but at least we're having good discussion around it, and that's really all that matters. We're moving it forward. So.
Yes, sir.
Just one practical question, Mark. So for the electrical service and will vendors be able to use those if like a food cart comes by? Will they be able to tap into those services, or
the people that use the pavilion or the gazebo will be able to tap into that? We'll have a service there. It's the other part on the other side over by the rock wall or the built wall. That's the area that I'm not quite sure about. If we have service over there, then if it's already put there, then otherwise I don't know how it's going to get over there. Parking lot's been paved.
Food trucks might have to deal with a generator or something.
That's right.
Of that
Most food
nature.
trucks don't. Yeah, most food trucks have their generator, but I'm not sure if that was done.
Okay, that was just my question. I mean, trying to make sure we have enough services for any food truck that wants to go there.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions of Mark? All in favor?
We're past 6-0.
Thank you, Mark.
Right.
Again, Jordan seems to be an excellent man. Met him for the first time at the Conservation Commission tonight. A lot of energy in that person.
Yeah, he's busy. He's very busy, and we have a lot going on, especially now that May 24th coming around, and Some of the events that we planned on having staggered over the course of time we're going, full participation. So we have a lot going on.
Busy week for the community garden. I was going to introduce this in council communications. I received feedback associated with that. Rest assured to the individual that reached out to me, I saw no less than 4 different posts associated with that, and the amount of effort that's actually been done in that garden in the last week is really amazing.
It was
The fact
pre-planned.
is that they're out there a good
Right.
season associated with that in the public garden. So thank them, Mark.
Yep, they did a nice job. I did want to mention too that Councilor Lent was talking about signage in the past. We received our first of many signs today for Beaver Park. Next time you're in the park, you'll see a 5x4. It's kind of like an iconic. It's going to be more of a scenario that we're going to use for the trailheads, probably Grazi Square, when it talks about the rules of the park. This is probably the nicest sign that we've ever had that clearly defines what the park's about, hours of operation, how to navigate through. You can actually do a QR code to get a park pass.
Oh, sweet.
It's very, very cool. It should be up tomorrow. Well, hopefully we'll get the post in the ground and get it up tomorrow, but that'll be the first one of many that we'll be putting up around town to get consistency of signage that we've been working on for a long time. So,
If you haven't seen the new parking lot at Beaver Park, do so. It's pretty cool.
yeah,
So
we
thank
doubled
you.
the size of our parking this past.
Yeah, no, by all means, just seeing how much it opened up that area to right of the cabin, right up to what the old parking is, I can already envision a lot less pressure during soccer and football seasons associated with that in that area for sure. It's a pretty amazing.
Yeah.
On mostly materials that actually came from the 196 project. So,
Right.
yeah, it's something to see. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Next item, Twyla.
Is other business, council committee reports.
School?
Nothing new to report.
Planning, Don?
Planning board met last Thursday and approved the development, which is a condo development on Merrill Avenue. It's been modified to 7 units. And they did some workshop work on the solar, on the solar ordinance. Working on that, it's going to be, or if it's not already been done, referred to AVCOG for input from them on the ordinance that has been roughly written. The only thing I would say is I think we're going to be up against a timeline on getting the getting in time for the end of the moratorium. I think it's going to require renewal of the moratorium.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember what the date was.
I'll
It was
check on
March
it.
sometime, I think, but we had 90 days, and it's going to come up soon.
Yeah. Okay.
They have a hearing. They have to do hearings,
Sure.
and then pass it to the town and do the same thing.
We did the same with medicinal marijuana, so no reason to expect it anything less. Give them the time that they need to be able to address the issue we brought before them. Anything else, Don?
Nope.
LDC.
Brett just summed it up tonight, so.
Conservation, I met them at 6. They're looking at forestry management in the fall timeframe at Beaver Park specifically, addressing invasive plants on the trail system, bamboo and a couple of other different things associated with that Jordan's working on. Brown-tailed moth infestations in a couple of different spots. He's met with Mark on that to figure out the best way to address specifically along School Street. And there's a couple of issues there. Graziano Square. Those are the 2 areas that were specifically identified that Jordan's looking to get resolved. Richard actually mentioned the meeting for the 26th with Brett, getting Conservation Commission actually to hear that. Primarily, we keep bringing on green aspects or conservation areas associated with that, and our Parks Department is still just so big. How do we actually maintain that to be able to get their input into that process? So I think that's a good thing because the point of reference there was Mr. Seaman actually not understanding just the bypass area for the walkway that you guys had talked about in from Davis Street through the back 40 and some of those other considerations. I think it'll good to have their flavor associated with that. Interest in a spring cleanup that they would actually maintain next April, and also again the rail trail discussion that they're looking at on June 8th. He did mention, Diane, put this just food for thought. Blethyn Street, parking at the base of the hill. Limited, not intended. But has anybody considered the vacant area on the right-hand side? That little square in front of what would be the Sampson's place? Who owns, and is that something that might address some of that?
I'll check.
And it may not, because in the scheme of things, if most of what we're talking about, if Rumbo comes to fruition, that wouldn't be the end of the trail anyways, because it'd be developing all the way down to the parking ride. But in the short term associated with that, you're still dealing with too many people in that area in some times throughout the course of a weekend.
I'll check with Randy on that.
That was it. I'm sorry. And county, nothing new as of this time. Library, Mark?
Nothing new to report.
Water? Don? Water?
No, I haven't met again.
Okay. Finance, they are meeting later.
Yes, but they are actually going to tackle some of the discussion about the transfer station. So they're going to kick it off early, get things rolling so that they can put us in a good spot to have that discussion that we wanted to have by the end of October. So hats off to the committee chair and the rest of the committee for diving into this thing in the middle of the summer, or the start of the summer, I should say. And you skipped me for recreation, and I'm going back.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right.
Do that. Be honest.
So the only thing I wanted, hats off to the Recreation Committee for showing some situational agility with the changes that have been made in Augusta. That means they could go ahead and take a look at all of the events that they had planned. And to Mark's point earlier, where they were staggered, they're trying to get creative on how they want to do things. And I think they're also setting up for honoring what we had talked about when we committed to Moxie Plaza, which is the partnership between the economic development director and Mark, to make sure that regardless of what the change was, the idea was to make Moxie Plaza successful. And so I think they're gearing up for that. I'm excited about the season. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be a real good time. So that's that.
Thank you. Diane, where do you?
Just one thing is, the governor is relaxing her COVID-19 restrictions starting Monday, the 24th. So we're pretty much going to go back to normal here in the building. We won't have any requirements as far as social distancing. We'll let as many people in as that they want to come in. If they want to wear masks, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. And then we'll go back to our regular setup for council meetings on June 22nd. So that's the plan, unless she comes out with something between now and then that prohibits us from doing that.
Okay.
And that's the same thing with the transfer station. We'll be able to let as many cars in, and we won't be counting the cars and holding some back. So I think that's going to help, especially on the really busy days, as far as the, the pile up of cars all the way out to Capitol Avenue. So.
Randy, still envisioning in the new environment the person sitting in the booth?
Yes. There needs to be somebody in that booth.
So the collection efforts were there, but we won't be holding people back based on number of bodies.
Right. Exactly.
It's perfect for the listening dog, just to at least.
We'll be looking for permits, basically.
What was that?
We'll be looking for permits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Permits and chargeables.
Chargeables, yes, exactly.
Yes. He is my favorite person.
That's the biggest part up there is the enforcement. That's how we're getting our revenue, and that hadn't happened in the past, but you can see what happens when we do have that enforcement.
And if it hadn't been for the COVID thing, we wouldn't have even known, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Department head written reports. Anybody have any feedback or questions? I have one that I hadn't already addressed tonight. I saw in the chief's goals for the June timeframe. Can you also remind him, after our last budget workshop, like to see in maybe at least our second June meeting, what he is landing with for the fire minimum manning?
Yes, yeah, I already had that discussion with him, and
Appreciate it. I know, I
said that
figured
we'll
you
have
had-
that on the agenda for
I
just
figured
an
his
update.
report was already written, and just looking to make sure, because that seemed to
Yeah.
be pretty much a consensus from where we were landing on that.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that content?
On the town manager's report, Diane, I see in there that you have the upper dam removal finalized access agreement with the department there. I know we talked about them getting showing us more data on what that river would look like after if they remove that rest of the dam there, but I haven't seen anything back from them. Could you get that back to us before anything's agreed to?
Yeah, you're going to have more discussion on that.
Just wanna make
Until
sure
we
we're
can
on
come
the-
to an agreement on that access agreement, it's not coming back to council.
Okay.
But I thought he had provided that information to you that night he came back again.
Okay.
I'll go back and look in my emails, so
I think one of them
I'm
was
quite
sweet.
sure he did.
Yeah.
I'll go, let me look, I'll send it back, I'll send it to you, okay? Okay.
Nothing else? Councilor communications. Diane, the only one that I had was any traction on the salt shed with New Gloucester since we last spoke?
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about that later.
Okay. That's fair enough.
We need to go back over two appointments.
Oh, you're right. I missed one. Thank you.
Order 2021-121, the Lisbon Development Committee. We have a 3-year term, an associate seat to 2024, and you have an application from Janice Sargent. And she attended the last meeting. You met her online and the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Make that motion.
Need a second.
I'll second.
By all means, the fact that I think should be a very capable person explains why I hadn't seen the face there, but I'd forgotten, so by all means. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Welcome, Janice.
So now you can go back to audience participation.
I have nothing on that.
Okay.
We can keep moving.
And do you have any more councilor communications?
No, that was just.
I just have one.
Okay.
This is more for the folks who might be viewing or watching this at a later time. There'll be 3 open seats come November, so if you are compelled to or have been thinking about, feel free to come in and put your papers in, or at least ask questions. Twyla is very knowledgeable and can give you all kinds of details here. I think it's a good, if you're thinking about committing your time to your community, there's no better way to do it. So that's my plug. That's all I want to do.
Thank you. Anybody else?
We'll announce that papers are available at your next meeting and give them the date and times.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
fine.
I'm sorry, Twyla.
Twyla,
Fine, yeah.
do you plug for absentee and voting in
Yes.
person?
Yes, we have had some people already vote absentee, so we encourage people to call, get your ballots mailed to you, or stop here at the town office and vote, or vote on election day at June 8th.
Beautiful.
June 8th, right, yes, Tuesday.
I might remind the
It's a Tuesday,
people,
That's. I knew the 8th was on my mind on that. That's a busy day.
Mm-hmm,
I would,
same day.
I'm trying to figure out how Richard's going to do both because I don't see it actually happening.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is probably the proper place to bring this up or not, but did we ever figure out if there's a way to get the contact information on the live stream? So if somebody wants to email Ellen Ward during.
It is on there.
Is it
Mhm.
on there? Okay.
Yeah, it's on the front page.
Okay.
It has his email address on there. So at some point, we'll have to
I'll
maybe
have to
make it
actually watch
bigger
it.
if you didn't see it.
I'm not that entertaining, Jeff. I don't actually see my name in light.
are
Plus,
we
it's on
still
all the
communicating
agendas.
or are we
Yes.
audience
Yes,
participant?
if you got something done,
And
absolutely.
I just wanted to say that that meeting on the 26th that we're trying to encourage people to go to, if you cannot attend, I believe it's going to be live streamed too. And didn't you
Technically,
say
it has
that,
to be because
Diane?
it's alive.
How do you do
Yeah,
that?
I don't know how. I think Brett was trying to work on that.
Well, maybe we
But
should
this-
ask him.
Yeah.
He's right there.
He's right there.
Yeah, Brett? Okay. It's in
Okay.
progress.
Yeah, straw
So it's
poll,
in progress, maybe.
straw poll from council who would actually is planning on attending.
Yes.
Talking next Wednesday, yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, so that said, it needs to be, and I know they did it for the last meeting as well too, because where I was going with that is if anybody from council hasn't seen where Brett and the LDC have gone since that rainy fall evening down there last time at Rumbo, you need to, because there are a lot of good conversation pieces that's there, and it's going to take a lot of us to be able to educate that direction that this ultimately plays itself out.
For my part, I'm going to view it from another location. But I would
So
like
you'd be
to watch
relying
it.
on the stream, yes.
Yes.
With a drink and a half shell of a coconut, I'm sure.
We can Zoom if you want.
Right on. Next item, Twyla.
Audience participation response for new items. Those listening from Town Hall live video streaming are invited to send written comments to award@lisbonme.org.
Nothing still, Twyla.
All right, so your next item is the executive session per order, Order 2021-122 to go into executive session per 1 MRSA 4056C, acquisition of real property or economic development.
I need a motion.
I make a motion.
I need a second.
Second.
Will we be coming back?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Order passed 6-0. I'll turn the camera off and then you can just turn it back on when you need it. I programmed it till 11 p.m. You have plenty of time.
Okay.
7 p.m.
Need a 3-minute
Camera
break,
and the
anybody?
microphones.
This is a long topic we're about to dive into.
I don't know.
No, it's not gonna be that long.
Good.
We'll be quick. Ready to go back home and see my pup
Better do it quick.
tomorrow.
The big, which island? Big island?
Okay, it's on.
All right. We're back, and I have a motion on the table. Please, Jeff.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to loan $20,000 to Olive Pit Brewing Company over a 5-year term at 5% out of the microloan fund or IRP loan fund, either or.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor? I need a motion to adjourn,
Or so moved.
I'll second.
and I got the second right there with Jeff. All in favor? We're done. Thank you all for attending. Woo-hoo. Have a great night, all.
So from this point over, we're actually live unless something drastic happens, right?
Yeah, good news.
Is that?
Hey, if you change your mind and want to Zoom, just let me know.